Good morning, everyone. We are watching the sun rise from behind a building here. I'm at the top of I'm on Morningside Heights at 117th Street. It's earlier than I thought. It's 6:45. I thought I had till 6:52 or so. The sun is coming up, but we're not quite at 90 degrees east on this September 21st. The equinox is in a little over 24 hours. And that, of course, is marked by the sun rising exactly in the east. I'm a little late. And here's the sunrise on October 1st. Let's look at that little glow there for a minute. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I zoomed in. And the building to the left, that's kind of flat. Let's see if we can see it if we drop down. With the horizontal windows, kind of with a little peaked roof, or it's called mansardy kind of roof. That's where the sun was rising on the equinox. Now, these days later, it's risen to the right by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 degrees. And we can double check how much in the next couple days. So, when we first came out here, the sun was rising over in this area, centered right where I would be centered on the camera now at the horizon. And now it's swung to the right. And oh, I think here we come. Oh dear, we've got a sunrise here just off the right of that building. Beautiful orb. I can see with my naked eye. Unfortunately, this camera is not sensitive enough to pick it up, but there, we'll just let it happen. One thing that is good about the moisture that is along the horizon is that it gives us, it changes the direction of some of the colored light and gives us this beautiful red that we have. It's redder when I look at it with my eyes than it is in the camera. Again, the camera is not really doing it full justice, but may have mentioned that that sun is about, I believe, 2 degrees across, and it takes, maybe it's not that much, but it takes about 2 minutes from the first moment it appears above the horizon to the moment when it's all risen. So it's a way in which you can sort of tell time. And there it's up. Oh, here it comes. Count how long it takes to get fully up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And again, we will expect this sunrise to keep migrating. We're going to have a problem at this location. In fact, the sunrise is obscured, so we're going to have to start to move to a new spot. I was at a different spot last time. I wanted to be consistent with my first earlier ones. So the sun is almost up. I have to shield my eyes and only look in the camera because it's so bright. And it's a gorgeous color. It's, again, the camera never really does it justice. It's so bright and so orangey, sort of orangey, yeah, orange I would say is the main vibe, but closer to red than the yellow that we have here in the camera. And the orb is just about fully up, which means, of course, that we're rotating. So we're rotating right now from west to east, and that rotation is what gives this sun the appearance of moving in the sky. And we're rotating at a predictable and constant rate, more or less, I mean with very slight variation, of 15 degrees we rotate per hour, which, if you do the math, take 24 hours in a day and multiply it by 15, you would have your 360 degrees of rotation. If we look carefully, right where the sun has been rising, there's a red-tailed hawk soaring. I think I lost him. I thought we might get a poetic red-tailed hawk shot. And here comes the sun again, second rising for us, right? From behind that building. Pretty quick. Remember, we're rotating, and it appears to move at a rate of 15 degrees per hour. So if you were to grid out the sky with a 360 degree grid above and below the horizon, but of course you can't really do that, so a 180 will do. A 180 grid from horizon to horizon through the celestial meridian, you would note that the sun is rising at a rate of 15 degrees, appearing to move, I shouldn't have said rising, but appearing to move through the sky at a rate of 15 degrees per hour. On that happy day. And still, look at this lovely light. Oh, there's the sun just peeping out of that corner of the building. Look at that. That's the sunrise. We got it, people. Just peeking out. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Here it comes. Sun, sun, sun. Here it comes. Here we go, people. So we can see it's a good distance away from the end of 116th Street, and so it's going to take some days. I was saying that Manhattan is twisted on the north-south axis. The grid system straight up and down town is twisted away from north to the east if you're looking north, and to the I should say to the northeast, and to the southwest if you're looking south. So we'll investigate how much the grid is twisted off of the north-south meridional axis, the meridian's axis, the north-south axis. And here it is. It's just coming. I just see it. Just to the left, well, almost dead center between the two towers of smokestacks. There it is. And you can see we're just off of 119th Street, 116th Street. We're just off. 1 degree away. There's the 116th, and Here comes the sun right between those stacks. Gorgeous. So a whole degree must represent a certain distance along the horizon, and I'll try to figure that out, what the change is. 118 point what, and then all those 119s are obviously some small difference, but it's not a rapid whole degree per day in the next few days. Oh, look at it, comes up quick. I think if I remember, it's about 2 minutes for the whole orb. Very bright. I can only look at it through the camera. And of course, the camera overstates aspects of it. Or understates, I should say. It's not as dramatic in the camera as it is live. The color is more orange and yellow and more piercing. I can barely look at it if I don't block it with my hand. Yeah, I think I'm right. It's about 2 minutes. The orb is not fully up yet. Just about. And again, we're not quite on Manhattan Henge. So hopefully we'll get a chance later in the week. It won't be tomorrow, on the first day of 119. And, you know, for all we know, that the grid of Manhattan is actually twisted slightly more than 29 degrees. Oh, there, I gave it to you. The grid is tilted 29 degrees from the north to the east, and thus in the morning it takes the sun time from the equinox to finally get to this point where it rises dead on the end of the street. And as you can see, it's not quite dead on yet. We're getting there. Oh, here comes the sun, people. Right on time. Dead on 116th Street. Look at that. Sorry, I can't zoom in more. It's a big old sun today. Started about 3:03 on my watch. I'm gonna see how long it takes. So. It's always amazing the difference between looking at it and the camera. We're about a minute in now, and it looks about halfway up. Oh, this is your Manhattan Henge. You can see quickly how quickly the sun has crept to the right and is getting off of the grid. It only is a moment when it's exactly rising at the end of the street, and then it's off that grid again. So actually, days when it's rising, when it's a little bit less than 119, after 4 or 5 or 6 minutes, when it's a little higher in the sky, it looks like it's right at the end of 119, but didn't actually rise there. Because again, it always is rising at that slight angle. And we're getting on to 2 minutes. So I think we're in the 2-minute range right now. It's not quite all above the horizon, so obviously it takes a little bit more than 2 minutes. I've always had that number in my head, and can I leave here and then I never go and double check it? Bad guy. But it's pretty close to fully up now. A little bit on the bottom right through the camera. I think it's pretty much fully up. So it's somewhere in the 2 to 3 minute range that it takes to move completely across the diameter of the sun and be fully above the horizon. And here we are, Happy Manhattan Henge, December 3rd, 2020. It's 7:22. We finally got our sunrise. Sun is probably a little bit further south along the horizon now, but it's over the horizon, so that's not sunrise. So it's probably down around 122 maybe. We'll give the sun a chance to climb out from behind its hiding place on the horizon. According to my watch, it's February 25th, and it's about 6:29 in the morning, according to my phone. My phone here is worth noting because I got my compass working, and we're looking for a sunrise on the horizon here this morning at 6:36, and I'm told from my app time and date that we're looking at 101 degrees, which should be right out here. Now, we have a little problem, which is that we have this cloud bank, and in fact, we can already see a brightening on the horizon. Now, this zoom is not very good. We don't get in close at all, but we can see a brightening on the horizon at the top of some clouds out there, and that's just about at the 101. But unfortunately, that cloud bank is going to kill my sunrise at 6:36. We're not going to get the sun up. But really what I wanted to be here for was just to remind us, now that it's February, that we had been over here catching that sunrise at its maximum along the eastern horizon to the south. We had been catching it along 116th Street, which we see right here. We see that 116th Street, and we see that we had been catching that sunrise just to the right of it, just to the south of it, at its maximum around the winter solstice. And now we're back getting ready for the spring or vernal equinox. So without that cloud bank, we would have the sun rising in 2 minutes. But with that cloud bank, we're not going to get it right on time. But we'll want to come back here. We have now a little under a month until the vernal equinox, and we'll try to come back to catch the vernal equinox along the horizon so we can see an azimuth of 90 degrees, because of course that's what is one of the features of the equinoxes, is that the sun is rising directly at the azimuth of 90 from north and setting at an azimuth of 270 from north in the west. So we'll want to try to see that. And then, as we approach the end of the school year, March, April, May, and June, we'll want to track that sun as it creeps to the north along the horizon. We've caught the creeping south, And now we've sort of ignored the creeping back north to the point where we started last September, because we started at about 90 degrees from north at the autumnal equinox. Well, now we're going to come back and look at the vernal equinox and then track north to try to get to our maximum azimuth to the north, which is a number smaller, of course, than 90. I think what the maximum we get is somewhere around 29 to 30. Somewhere in the somewhere around 59 degrees, 60 degrees, 59 degrees from north. You can see beautiful brightening there. The sun is definitely now up. It's just behind that cloud bank, and then of course it's behind that building. And every second the sun rises, of course, its azimuth is changing, in this case heading south. So every moment that we rotate, the sun appears to head further south along the horizon, above the horizon. I have 6:41, so we went about 5 minutes past, looks to me, sunrise to catch the sun coming from behind that cloud bank. I'm still not seeing the full orb. So it's definitely, the cloud is still breaking up the sunbeams that would be flying in straight to my eye. Probably if I had a filter on here, I could probably get a better sense of where exactly the orb is in relation to the clouds. Here it comes. Now the orb is really picking up. Yeah, it just really brightened. Now the full orb is really up. So 6:44. So it took 8 minutes, which is just about right for the size of that cloud bank, at 2 minutes per diameter of the sun to pass over the horizon. So we're now set up looking 94 east, which is where the azimuth of sunrise should be this morning. And sunrise is meant to be at about 6:14, 6:15, and I have 6:07. So we'll give it a couple minutes before we restart. Again, we're approaching here on March 10th the equinox, which will be around the 21st, and a new moon, which we could confirm with our sighting of this beautiful waning crescent, which I have in another shot. Yeah, my compass is way off. Here we come. You can see it just coming up. Right on time. 6:15. Kaboom. Right on time. Happy sunrise, March 10. Today we get a good chance to start a stopwatch when we first see that sun and see how long it takes to fully emerge above the horizon. I've said it's about 2 minutes. Get a nice sense of how the atmosphere can distort the light waves so that they're bent slightly. It might be why they appear so red coming through the atmosphere. You can also see how the sun is making its way to the right as it rises. Its azimuth changing. So if we drew a perpendicular line from the center of the earth at every moment, it would be constantly changing its position along the horizon. And again, that's its azimuth at any moment. Everything always a moment in time, an instant. The great balloon of hydrogen fusion. It almost looks like a water balloon. Ides of March, March 15th, 2021. Sunrise at 91.8, is that what they said? Let me double check. I always forget these things. Sunrise, they're saying at 91.9, so about 92 degrees from north, just to the south of east. We are about 6 days away from the equinox, so it's going to be moving, I suppose, along the horizon pretty slowly over the next several days. That is the sunrise. So with my eye, I got the rise. With the camera, it's not quite the same. It's not quite as dramatic. But it's definitely up now. Oh! Oh, you can see. So it took till 7:10, well, a little bit less than that, to get it really up. That's the fireball for the day. All right, people. Happy sunrise on this March 15th, 2021. Cold morning, blustery north wind, and we can see a clear, beautiful atmosphere. It's Saturday, March 20th, and we're on the equinox, the vernal equinox, and the sun is rising actually just a little bit to the north of east, according to my time and date app, which is pretty reliable. We're at a rise this morning of 89.3 degrees east, which is just about what we're looking at. And the camera's a bit deceptive. It's not as dark and blood red on the horizon, but that's the shutter, or the light meter, I guess, optimizing. Sunrise is at 6:59, and right now we are at 6:49. So we got 10 minutes before the sunrise, and we may do a little fiddling around here. Let's try to figure out exactly when the equinox is today. So we'll do a little search. It may have been last night. And again, it's a little early. It's not March 21st, but we get that kind of variation as the year progresses in its, asymmetrical way. I shouldn't say asymmetrical, but it's not absolutely linear from year to year to year to year to year, because we have our elliptical orbit, and so we get these variations in when the sun and the earth line up in terms of our revolution around the sun. And of course the equinox is marked by a moment when the celestial meridian, that point solar noon, exactly crosses the equator. And so we, on this day, and it's got to do with it's actually not the celestial meridian, it's actually a star in the sky that the moment it crosses the celestial meridian is the actual equinox. But on the equinox, there would be a point where the sun would be at solar noon, too. And so let's see where we can find that. Equinox 2021. Oh, of course, what do we get? We get advertisement for Chevy Equinox. So we'll move on. We don't really want the Chevy Equinox. And well, let's just see. According to one source here, March 20th at 5:37 Eastern Daylight Time. So actually, the equinox just occurred. Geez, if only I'd known. Just about 37, and now we're at 6:52. So what? 15 minutes ago, we had the equinox, or at 9:37 UTC. Now, of course, everything's a little bit messed up by our shift to daylight savings time. Messed up, I shouldn't say, but we're going to get a sunrise at 6:59, which is at 7. And what do you notice about that? Well, we've pushed the time forward into daylight savings by an hour. Had we continued to use Eastern time, standard time, not daylight time, standard time, had we continued to use that, we would have had a sunrise at 6 a.m. and a sunset at 6 p.m. for a day of 12 hours. Now, we're still going to have a day of 12 hours. It's just not symmetrical in terms of our 24-hour clock. It's rising at 7 and setting at 7. It's not quite the same as 6 and 6, breaking the with 6 being a factor of 24 and 7 not. And on the equinoxes, the sun shines directly on the equator, and the length of day and night is nearly equal, but not quite. Okay, and it's the moment the sun crosses the celestial equator, the imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, from south to north, or vice versa. So we're heading to the north now. The sun is rising further and further to the north until it'll reach its maximum, as we know, on June 21st, or thereabouts. Whoa! It's just creeping over the highest point of that building. It's a beautiful day. not quite fully above. Again, on my phone camera, which I'll intercut, you get the sort of the water balloonish quality to the sun, this ball of hydrogen fusion. It's like a couple of probably ducks. Well, they may be geese coming back around. Beautiful. We are up, just clearing the building. Again, our horizon, we are at 89. Now we're probably now about at 90. The sun is probably about at 90 now that it's risen and headed slightly to the south. But it rose at 89.3. Again, degrees from north along the horizon, and it's now moving towards the south on its journey to noon, which will be around 1 p.m. here in New York because of Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Seems brightest just in the center now. I'm going to give a zoom in. Zoom in. There we go. Yeah. So sunrise has happened, and it's being blocked by these buildings right. The taller building to the right. The sunrise is just coming up to the right of it. welcome to the day. Our fusion balloon has made its arrival. The great fusion balloon in the sky is up. It's June 7th, and we're at the location, Carl Schurz Sculpture, 116th Street, and we're looking at an azimuth of about 58.4, I believe, is our sunrise azimuth. And we can see we have a problem, which is that there's a cloud bank there. So the sun is due in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5:24, 5:25, depending on who you ask. With a sunset of 8:25 and daylight of 15 hours, so we are moving towards the big summer solstice on June 21st. I'm getting a strange glow on the horizon that's getting bigger, and it sure looks like a sunrise to me. I don't know exactly why it's at 5:29, but there she blows, people, coming up beautifully in front of that cloud bank. I don't know quite how this is working, but I can tell you with my naked eye, it is an amazing red that's rising up. But with the camera, it's not the deep red that I see. I'm standing here trying to sort out, sort out why the sun appears to have risen 4 minutes later than expected. The reason that we're getting the sun looking the way it is to the naked eye is it's being filtered through what must not be very thick clouds. Oh, there's a relief. I'm going to zoom out slightly to give you a better view here. And we can thank our lucky stars. I don't know why this has happened the way it has, but pull out, give you a better picture of the morning sunrise here from 116th Street, looking now at an azimuth of 59.8 degrees northeast. That's 59.8 degrees northeast from due north. And again, we still have some creeping to do along this horizon before the solstice on June 21st. But happy June sunrise, June 7, 2021. The sound of birds. Say goodbye to the hydrogen balloon. So people, it's June 21st. Summer started just a little while ago, 11:32. So what's that? About 5 hours ago. And a little bit less than 5 hours ago. So we're in it. And we're going to watch the first sunrise of summer. Of course, you can see there's a bank of clouds. And that's probably going to make it a little tricky unless the sun is powerful enough to get right through them. So where are we? Well, we're on the horizon at 57.5 degrees east of north. That's our azimuth. And we're on 116th Street again. The same post, piece of granite that holds up the railing at this sculpture to memorialize Carl Schurz, who probably should be questioned as to his value as a leader, given that he voted to remove federal troops from the South as part of a political deal in 1876, gave up on Reconstruction, and the rest, as they say, is history, particularly 2 days post the first official Juneteenth. So here we are. I'm going to pause it now because we have 5 minutes before sunrise, and I think the buildings in this particular location delay our actual view of sunrise by several minutes. So we'll be there when it's there, and let's hope that this cloud bank doesn't diminish this solstice sunrise 2021. Just to add a little information for the day, given that it is the solstice, and we often think about the solstice as being important because it's the day when the sun's subsolar point at the zenith, the point when it culminates at the meridian at a particular location on Earth at a 90-degree angle in relation to the observer on the ground at that point. This is the day when it reaches its furthest or most northerly point and is marked by the Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degrees north. And that will happen today for New York City, when we will culminate at our highest altitude of the year above the horizon. Not obviously at our zenith, but our solar noon, as it were, will be, because of daylight savings, at 12:57 p.m. And at that point, the sun will be at 180 degrees south. And we should remember that it's not exactly at 1 p.m. because of the equation of time. And so our clock is a little bit ahead of the sun right now by 3 minutes, because on our clock we arrive at solar noon at 12:57. Is that correct? Oh wait, no, the sun is ahead of us. Sorry. Wait, I'm all confused now. In any event, it's happening a little bit earlier than 1, which means that either one or the other is faster or slower. So we'll have to sort that out in a second take. So it is now officially sunrise, 5:25 a.m. You can see the sky has brightened. We're going to start looking for a red glow coming up from behind the buildings. My camera may be a little bit off to the right. To finish that last solar noon thought, the sun will be at an altitude for us at approximately 72.67 degrees above the horizon at solar noon, which, as I said, is 12:57, meaning the sun is getting to that point a little faster than our clock. And so we should be seeing the sun at its highest point, 72.67 degrees above the horizon at solar noon today. Now, it's funny because it may have been slightly higher yesterday. I'll have to go back and look. But it actually wasn't summer yet, so summer happening 12 hours in between our two solar noons, we may be bracketing a point when the sun would have been at its highest point for New York City above the horizon. And now we're looking for some sign of the sun. The sun is now at an altitude of 0.34, and there we see it. It's just cracked the horizon on this first day of summer. It's 58.22 degrees. So it actually moved since sunrise almost a half a degree along the horizon before we finally caught it. These colors are magnificent in the camera, but aren't very accurate. And it looks like the sun might rise up and then go directly behind a cloud bank. So let's stop and watch. We're getting a very minimal show here, as the sun is not powerful enough to break through that cloud bank, but we are getting just a sliver of it. The camera doesn't really show that there's a ball of fire there. I can't really see it either, actually. The clouds are almost covering it now. We're at 58.54 degrees along the horizon. That's our azimuth. And we're at an altitude of 0.65 degrees above the horizon. I can see the curve of the base. Not the base itself. I can see the curve down on the left side and the curve up on the right. So it's just about fully up. Takes about just a couple of minutes if your horizon line is straight to get fully up. And it's disappearing. Well, people, I think that's all we get for the show today. And thus begins the sun's journey back along the horizon to the south. And this will take place over the next months until it reaches its maximum tilt away from the sun, our Earth that is, in December, when we would point our camera to the right, back to approximately 119 degrees from north. Is it 119? No, it's 120 something, sorry. It's actually not that hard to figure it out. It's 47 degrees from this point today. 47 degrees from 57 and a half. So, whatever that is. I can't do that math fast enough. So, back along the horizon, and we would pass through at 90 east our next equinox in September, when you will now have begun your next step. High school. And our great ball of fusion brings us another day.